My people, what up, though? We back with another episode of All Black Men Need Therapy. My name is Chief.
And I'm Bell.
My name is Prentice.
And here we go again, y'all.
Let's do it.
We figured we would jump right into the episode. Anything y'all want to say about last week's episode or whatever? We appreciate the love y'all giving, for sure.
Appreciate the support.
Always appreciate the support.
And we moving in some better direction. We got some stuff coming. We can't tell y'all yet because it ain't here. We want to show y'all, but it's coming. It's going to be pretty dope. Nevertheless, today's topic, manhood. It's levels to this shit. So we're going to discuss what it means to us, what it meant to us, what we know about it, what we knew about it, all that good stuff, and see where we can go from there. So, P, according to, and Bell, according to Webster, a man, the definition of a man is an adult male person. A member of the species Homo sapiens, or all the members of this species collectively without regards to sex. A human being, person, and then in the subtitle it says, to give a man a chance. When the audience smelled the smoke, it was every man for himself. A husband, I now pronounce you man and wife. A male lover or sweetheart. A male follower or subordinate. How about that? A male having qualities considered typical of men or appropriately masculine. Be a man. The army will make a man of you. A male servant. 11, a valet.
We get it, bro.
I'm just saying, it's a lot going on.
This
here.
just made me think of something.
What's that?
And we're gonna get to the first question, but I'm kind of derailing. Could you be a subordinate to your lady?
In certain regards, absolutely. Why not?
I'm just asking.
Absolutely.
What about you, Prentice?
He is now. His wife is shorty pregnant.
I just ran to Lucky's last night at like 10 o'clock to get a caramel apple pie scoop of ice cream, bro. I'm all the way in it.
So
what's up.
yeah, so but outside of those conditions, I think we all have it in us to know when to step back, and I guess
Could you assume that role? Like if your lady said, either explicitly or in a roundabout way, like, this is my relationship.
Nah.
We in it together. But I'm wearing the proverbial pants.
I think I have a problem with that.
I would absolutely problem with that.
I think just because of the traditional norms of how a relationship is supposed to be, or I don't know. I just think I take pride in being the man of the family, being the man of the house, being able to provide and protect. And I think that comes with being a man. So I would have an issue with, Well,
hold up, though. You said something. How a relationship's supposed to be.
Uh-huh.
How is a relationship supposed to be?
According to stereotypical societal norms,
But
the man is the head of household.
Right. So you're saying that you've adapted those stereotypical norms.
To a degree, yes.
Okay. So, as a man,
Uh-huh.
another question. As a man, could you make less money and live in your lady's house? Like, if she said, you meet, you date, you obviously living separate, and she says, no, I want you to come live with me. My house is bigger, whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I have a problem with that.
So not making as much money.
I don't think I have a problem with that. I kind of think I mean, that would attract me, and it would just motivate me to do more. So I'm not opposed to that at all.
What about you, Prentice?
Yeah, I say the same. I don't. Once you get into a relationship, man, and you realize that a lot of these definitions that you grew up thinking were manhood, were healthy relationships, all that, man, you kind of learn that you kind of got to shape it yourself. You know what I mean? And depending on your circumstances, you may be the one that's, in my case, at the crib, and I keep talking about it because it's true.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But it makes sense for our dynamic and the way things are. So I think it depends on what you got going.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't want people to confuse it with like being an ego strong thing, because although right now you're the man at home and your ladies, I guess, I don't know if you want to call her the breadwinner, but you know, she's the one working and you're at home.
No, we both got bread coming in.
I'm saying,
podcast.
He tried you. He tried you.
Yeah, he tried to play me real quick.
Yeah,
we're not gonna do that.
I'm saying in the traditional sense of the 9 to 5, your lady's the one leaving the house, going out. So you're essentially the stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
So does that take away from you being the man of the house?
No. What the biggest struggle was me. The biggest struggle was adjusting to this, and you know, like when you decide to be full time with your passion and your career, and you got to adjust to this type of climate. You know what I'm saying? So it took a while for me to adjust, even though, you know, money is being generated or you bring in bread. It's just not the way you're used to or what you were taught what being a man is. You know, you're not taught that part of being a man can be being self-employed, an entrepreneur, generating your income, but being at home more than the woman you're in a relationship with. You're not taught that. You know what I'm saying? So you go down these avenues of life and you find your life leading you towards, you know, something you didn't expect or something you weren't taught. Sometimes you got to, I don't know, you struggle with that ideology and that image of who you are.
No, Bell, P mentioned, he said the word taught several times. Think back to a point in your childhood or as early as you can think of it, when you were taught. What were you taught about manhood?
I think it was one of those things. It wasn't like okay, son, here's a lesson in manhood. Like it wasn't any of those conversations from my dad.
Damn sure wasn't enough for mine.
You ain't give me a chance.
That's how we do it in the hood sometimes. You got to beat them to the punchline before they get you.
No, I don't think it was ever here's how you be a man, right? Here's what it means to be a man. I've never had an explicit conversation with him about that. I think if I'm being honest, in retrospect, if I look back, the definition that he taught me was not, if I'm being honest, not to communicate well, right? Like, and based on what I witnessed.
What do you mean? What you say not to communicate? What do you mean? My
dad wasn't a good communicator.
Okay. Like
the crazy thing is, he communicates with his friends like exceptionally well, but and from what I witnessed in that relationship, and hey, it could have been my mom too, but I just never saw my dad communicate very well. I never saw him express like emotion outside of anger. You know, like he's a very emotional person, but he's not like my old basketball coach had brought this up one day. God rest his dead, Coach Marco. I was 15, 14. He was talking about the dynamic of Black people and Hispanic people, how Hispanic people are just overly loving human beings. He said, Bell, because we were driving. He said, we driving right now. We see your dad walking down the street. What you gonna do when you see him? I'm gonna tell you to pull over and, you know, ask him to get in the car, give him a ride. And he's like, okay. I said, if I saw my dad walking down the street right now, I'll pull over, get out, give him a hug and a kiss, and then give him a ride. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have that. I didn't get taught how to show love. I guess that's probably the best way to say it. I didn't get taught how to do that. I didn't get taught how to be a great communicator. I did get taught how to make shit happen, right? I got taught how to fish. I got taught that you support your child's activities. Like that was taught to me. But again, in a conventional way, but in an unexplicit way. Almost like, you know, watch me and learn that way. But outside of that, that was my only lesson. And then, you know, so then prior to that, though, I had got the man of the house conversation. I had that. You're not a man of the house, right? And that
was when he got locked up?
No, I was too young when he got locked up. This was my parents break up every 7 years. So it was during that period. But I took that as, you know, do better. for your mom. Like, don't give her a hard time. So when I was home, I was fine, but I would act up in school all the time. And she always had to come to school. Like, I was always acting up. And I don't even know why. I don't know why I was acting up like that. But it could have been the absence of a dad. I'm not sure. But
it's interesting you say that. So is it fair to interpret that based on that man of the house conversation, your interpretation at that point in your life of being a man was not getting in trouble at home?
Yeah. Like, don't put more strain on your mother as the man of the house. Because I realized that I didn't have, at that time, like, I didn't know, again, what that meant outside of the chores and shit like that.
So when you talked about chores, I legitimately, as a child, believed that being a man, like, consisted of taking out the trash. Mm-hmm. Like, that was my thing. Like, I took pride on Tuesdays when it was trash day, making sure there was no trash in the house and the trash got from the house to the curb. You know what I'm saying? And that was like part of a man's responsibility. My mom did everything else, you know what I'm saying? But me, taking care, making sure my little brothers, were fed or put to bed or whatever. But it was, the trash was a big deal to me. Like, all jokes aside, it was a big deal. And I can't really recall of, like, what it meant to be a man. Don't start with this.
I'm only laughing because I'm picturing 9-year-old Chief militant ass. Hey, put the trash to the can now. It's trash day. God damn it, time to go. I ain't got time to keep telling y'all this. I'm just picturing you just taking that shit so serious.
So what I did with Peanut and Duck was they just had to take the garbage out the bathroom and just bring it to the kitchen and put it in, you know what I'm saying? So they had the rooms and they had little chores like that. So that was a part of it. But that was like for real to me. And there was no real, I mean, I got the man of the house conversation, but again, it wasn't showed what that entailed.
Because the crazy thing is, your man of the house conversation didn't come from an example.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, your man, like, it's almost like you're creating a playbook.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the man of the house. Now figure it out. Well, figure out what that means.
How crazy is it that most of us have had that conversation delivered to us at a young age?
You said most of us didn't have that conversation?
No, we did. Like, at some point in our childhood, in our youth, an adult figure was like, you are now the man of the house.
You know what I think it is, though, bro? I think it's one of those things that's just, like, passed down from generation to generation, and unfortunately passed down because it's a learned behavior. I shouldn't say learned behavior. It's what happens is it becomes a norm, unfortunately, in some cases, where it's like, okay, in the absence of a dad, the oldest boy is now the man of the house. Yep. Whereas there isn't much thought behind it outside of uttering those words. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like they don't think about the impact. They don't think about the roadmap necessary to live that life, right? They also don't think about the delayed impact. Right, like they don't think about the impact in real time and then the delayed impact, right? Like,
which has us having this conversation,
right? Which is why
it's not always negative, because if I think about it, my mom was slick how she did it. My mom didn't talk to me about manhood because she knew that wasn't her place, but she gave me the tools. So as a child, I could think of. I remember when I was 12, I had to tear down the whole wall surrounding the fireplace, learn how to remold it with tile, do all this shit. I had to learn how to peel up carpet, lay down hardwood floors, paint. And she never associated that with manhood. It was always just traits she gave me. And I think because there are different men I can remember being a part of my life, whether they were friends of hers or through school, I got glimpses of different type of men. You know what I mean? So I can think of different examples I received at some point in time with, like, different men that I got. But the tools she gave me prepared me for manhood when I actually became one, because they were natural. So when I got into my first relationship, when I lived with a girl and something breaks and I'm immediately fixing it before we even call the office, you know what I'm saying? Then I'm being viewed as more so of a man in this woman's eyes, or I guess, society's eyes, because I know these things. But mom's just, she taught me a bunch of things that's just kind of like tools. So they weren't associated with manhood. They were just, this is what you're supposed to do. You got to know how to fix shit. But the life skills, you know, she gave me, they came in handy later, but nothing was ever associated with manhood. So I think I had a freedom as a child to kind of just observe how men behave, the ones that are around me. And that kind of subconsciously and without having that conversation defined maybe what manhood was. You know what I mean?
Now, Prentice, in your mom's house, were you the only child?
It was, I got an older sister, but she didn't grow up with us in the house. So yeah, I grew up as an only child, even though I had 3 others. I have a total of 4 sisters, but
Right.
I didn't grow up with any of them. So yeah, it was me and moms the whole time.
Yeah, and that's a different dynamic too. You know?
Yeah. But it's interesting what you say about how it's not spoken beyond you're the man of the house.
Yeah.
My mom just put me to work. You know what I mean? Like I had to drive at a really young age to run errands. I had to do a lot of different things, and there wasn't no conversation. It was just, this is what you're supposed to do. And I think in hindsight now, that may have helped me. You know what I mean? Like just learning them life skills as a human being rather than being told that, you know, this is what men do. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think more free.
too, though, I think, and not knowing your story as well as you, obviously, I think your circumstances allow for that, right?
Yeah,
like
I
your
do too.
circumstances allow for that, and that's also a story, right? Like that's also a storyline. That's like one of the, to your point, one of the positive things that can happen after that conversation. You know, and
Yeah.
I don't think anything negative happened from that conversation with me personally, with the exception of me growing up too fast. That would be the only exception. Like I was working at 14 to support myself, you know, 13, 14 to support myself, to help out with bills. Right? So I think to your point, yeah, there's A, unintended consequences with that conversation, A, and B, there's a lot to be gained also from that conversation as well. You know what I mean? I think everybody who's had that conversation with their child or whomever had the best intentions in mind. Whether it played out that way, you know, it's different for everybody, as we're finding out.
So in listening to that, like what it does though is it prepares us to be handy and do all the things a quote unquote man should do. But then at what point are we taught that emotional component of it all? And I'm asking you that because I'm looking at this meme right now, Bell, and it says, it's a mom talking to her son, and it says, "Stop, I can give you something to cry about. Boys and men do not cry." And then right below it is the mom talking to the son, but he's probably a teenager or an adult now, and it says, "Why can't you just show a tiny bit of emotion?" I was definitely given to stop crying before I give you something to cry about. Men don't cry.
Me too.
And then when we get older, it's like, why can't you show a bit of emotion? Because I was taught to hide that shit. You know what I'm saying? But that's either here or there. We're gonna get into that emotional unavailability conversation in the next episode or episode coming up.
Bro, you got a meme for everything.
Yo, I like that. They get my mind spinning, B. Nevertheless, so adolescence now. You're a teenager now. Your depiction of a man has shifted a little bit. So as a teenager now, you fill bigger shoes. What does it mean now to represent a man as a teenager?
To get something.
I think at teenage years, manhood starts to be reflected, and you start to get an idea. Well, I started to get an idea more of manhood in my teenage years through my peers. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's the age where you start to see bravado poke out of your peers. You see a different type of a nature, a vibe, and feel from your peers. And so it no longer was, you know, again, I didn't have no man talk as a child, but it was no longer just observational of actual grown-ups, but seeing manhood in 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? And then I start to maybe measure what I'm doing or who I am as a 15-year-old to this other one, which I guess is manhood at that time for us. I don't know.
But
you know,
I couldn't agree with what you said more, right? Because I was the same exact way. But the messed up thing is, if we had the definition as we get into adolescence, become adolescents, that wouldn't be our depiction.
Right.
So,
and depending on the kids that are around and who their influences are, you know what I mean? That can affect
it's the absence of information.
Right.
right? It's the absence of information, so we create a narrative. Oh, like I said, when for me it was getting girls.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Having sex, like that to me was a man. And I had no one to tell me any different. I've never had like the birds and the bees conversation with my dad. Now, my dad was around, but we just never had that conversation. And not to say that that's the blame why I had a child at 15, because that's not. But it would have been good to have. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Yeah. That absence, man. I'm sure it does make a difference. But yet and still, you know, at 16, 15, you measuring yourself to the other 15, 16-year-olds, everybody else in high school.
That's a fact. And the messed up thing is, P, statistically, there's a strong possibility they don't have a father in the household.
That's true. Right? That's
you know
true.
What I'm saying? So it's like
out together.
Like it's the blind leading the blind. You know what I'm saying? they may have a year or two on you, which is why you look up to them or why you look to them for guidance, but they don't have no guidance. But then that's a whole nother conversation. But then like now in comes gang culture.
I think it's the same conversation. You know what I mean? Like we talk about levels of manhood, and when it comes to levels of manhood, you got to think even as a teenager, you know, some of us grew up earlier than others. You know what I mean? Like some of us had to really, you know, some of us got to talk, some of us didn't, some of us were thrown into the fire. So there's different levels of manhood that we're adapting as, you know, as teenagers that we're measuring up to too, man. Absolutely. And there's a lot of different type of levels of manhood. So, you know, depending on your environment, you're going to get different vibes.
And I'm just thinking of it when like my man had 15 years old, was getting ready to have a baby. Now you got to, but from my perspective, you had to be able to fight. Yeah. And you had to, like you said, and you had to be able to play with dozens. You had to be able to crack on people. Like if you wasn't good at that shit, you was in the back getting cut up on every day. And in turn, if you couldn't crack back, you had to be able to fight.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? Like when you beat somebody up, they stop talking about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And look, I think that's a stage too. That's a really crucial stage, that fighting stage, man, where you gotta
earn your stripes.
Gotta earn your stripes.
Earn them stripes, and sometimes them stripes come by giving the blows, and sometimes they come by taking them.
Right, but see, so either you like so. In a lot of cases, you're either the funny dude. They don't really mess with the funny cat because he's cool with everybody.
The cool funny cat.
The cool funny cat, or you the top, or you like one of the top tier athletes. So cats just rock with you because you know what I'm saying, because you the cooler athlete.
But they try athletes at a young age too, though.
Yeah,
because you got hype, right? You got people talking about you, and they ain't talking about them. Like my man posted the other day. Shout out to my man Kim, on Facebook. He randomly, and at this point I haven't talked to him in a while. He posted, he was like, yo, I remember we was in middle school and 18, 19, and 20-year-olds used to come to fight Bell. Right? Like, that's a true story. Like, these dudes was 18, 19 years old. I'm 12, bro. They used to come to fight me because they was trying to pick up middle school girls, which is just crazy, right?
Right.
But,
yeah, man.
But that's the thing. It's like
that Robert Kelly.
Yeah, man. It's like, yo, what is like y'all in high school, bro? Like this is crazy. And as a result, and I mean, mind you, I'm in 7th grade at this time. Like the time he referencing, I'm in 7th grade. So what ends up happening is they try you. Right now, you got to earn your stripes, right?
Yep.
And so that's all part of that phase. But then the crazy shit is, it's like some of them people that you were looking up to, now you got to fight them. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Where it's like it's just crazy, man. You know what I mean? And in me, so another thing, which is crazy, which I didn't do and I should have, now that I think about it, like I didn't tell anybody about those incidents, like when I was that age. Like my father, who's a killer, I could have told him, right? My cousins are killers, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't tell anybody because, again, it was like, nah, you handle your own stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You handle your own stuff. Like, I'll take it how it come. I'm not getting a gang of people. I'm not doing all of that. And I'm not calling for backup. Like, I'm going to just, hey, like you said, if I got to take this one, if you got me, then you got me, right?
So my mom didn't even know I was running with, like, the gangs or whatever. So I remember beefing with some dude in school, sucker punched me, swole my eye up. I come home, my mom like, damn, did you get your hits in? When she said, I'm like, yeah, I ended up beating him up. But because she said that, he worked at the little bodega on Arch Street. I was living on Prospect at the time. I cut through the little street and beat him up at his job because my mom tried to play me. Like I had to go get mine back. You know what I'm saying? Well, that was just the nature of the game. Like you can't, you know. So and again, it's sad because that's what we thought was the right thing to do at the time.
I don't know if we thought it was the right thing to do, but I don't know if we knew there was another option.
And I think that
because you think about it, right? Like think about the kids today, right? Think about the kids today, and I'm not speaking for all kids today. I'm just speaking about like the internet generation, right? The internet generation, there's a chance that they'll never see the person on the other side of that chat that they're talking about, right? We didn't have that option.
No.
Like if I had the nerve or you had the nerve to say something about me, you knew you were going to have to see me.
Right.
But you were going to fight or you had to, that was getting addressed. Like that was getting addressed.
Absolutely.
And we also understand that we don't want to be labeled. At least I'll speak for Chief and I. We didn't want to be labeled. So when if you was a punk, it was over for you.
You was a punk.
It was over. Like it was nothing you can do. And you a big punk at that because I was big. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, so I like it was, you couldn't, like I said, that wasn't the right thing to do.
Right.
But I don't know that there was anything else we could have done. And
the sad part is these kids nowadays equate manhood to that. Like, for example, my son is 6'4", 315 pounds. Whenever shit used to go down, they would call him like, yo, come through, we need you, come through. And he would go.
Yeah, that backup.
And he would go and he would beat cats up. When I met the little dude, he had slapped the absolute dog shit out of somebody in school and lied to me and told me he didn't. And we, whatever, that was a different thing. But like, because he was so big, he was the man, quote, he was the man because he slapped people and people were afraid of him because he was so big. And he got his name off of fighting.
I had a weird experience, man, with that. Like, now that we're talking about it, thinking about it, in high school, shout out to my three best friends, Jamon, Corey, and Rashid. I see y'all, GZAC crew. We grew up with each other since we were 10 years old. I got three best friends. It was all four of us everywhere we went. We were the funny, happy-go-lucky, not trying to fight, always dancing, always color coordinated at parties. I was DJing. We was traveling from high school to high school, DJing, dancing. We were the life of the party. We just loved enjoying ourselves. And I think being in that bracket during that time, we got a lot of hate. You know what I'm saying? We go somewhere, they be like, who these niggas thinking they B2K? Or who these niggas dancing around? Like, we got all that, but we didn't care because that's who we were. We was just some fun kids who like girls and loved to dance. And I ain't had no mouthpiece, so I knew girls like dudes who knew how to dance. So I was like, fuck it, I'm about to learn how to dance.
Right.
But with that came the niggas who don't respect niggas who like to dance. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Don't know how to dance.
And don't know how to dance.
Whereas, we got a lot of that, but and so we got a lot of that at parties. We got a lot of that, a lot of different places. So I found myself growing up having to flip a switch. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm happy-go-lucky, but at the same time, you're not gonna be flexing on me like this in front of all of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we got to know how to flip a switch, but where do we stand as 16 years olds growing up in the Bay Area who like to dance, party, and have fun, but at the same time, we live in the Bay. You know what I mean? So, like you said, if you're a punk, you're a punk, and we wasn't trying to be no dancing punks who were all color coordinated.
Right. It'd been a long day, long nights for y'all.
Guide you through that. There was nobody to say, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't worry about them. Keep doing what you do. We had to figure this shit out. Like, okay, nigga, if they fuck with us, bro, we might get knocked out, but we can't get beat up, bro. You know what I mean?
You said a good point. There was nobody to tell you any different.
Yeah.
Why is that though, fam? Like, I'm thinking about that now. Like, there were a couple people around, but there was nobody really steering the young dudes in the right direction, fam.
So, I just saw this interview, right? It was a relatively old interview with Fat Joe and Shaq.
Okay.
Now, for people listening, Shaq used to be a rapper. It's a platinum selling rapper, like multi-platinum. I'm almost positive. Right?
I don't know that.
And it was good. Like, I liked Shaq music back in the day. Anyway, and Shaq, just another plug to Shaq. Shaq's probably did features with all your favorite artists. But that's neither here nor there. He talked about reconciling with his biological father. And because you remember back in the day, he had that song, my biologicals didn't bother. Phil is my father. So Fat Joe talked about that. And what he said was, Shaq was like, man, I just recently reconciled with him. I don't, he was going through a lot back then. A lot of people were going through a lot back then. So I'm not going to hold that against him. Right. So I say that to say, as adults now, we can look back and think about, right? Because my boss always talks about, is it circumstance or is it behavior? Right. And we're all 80s babies. We grew up in the crack era, right? There was a lot of outside influences, not to make excuses for any men during that time, but what I'm saying is, as an adult now, you have to understand that there was a lot. So to answer your question, there was a lot going on, right? Mass incarceration was happening. Like, it was a lot going on. And if you grew up in the inner city, the chances of males being highly educated in your neighborhood was low, right? It's a slim chance. Like, there weren't a lot of us in those neighborhoods growing up, right? It was a lot of men getting by. So all I'm saying is, the reason why, my opinion, that wasn't prevalent is because they were trying to fucking survive, right? So that's the only thing I'm saying. I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying, as an adult, we can look back and say there were circumstances, right, that were going on, and again, prison is there's a lot of different reasons, like my dad wasn't around for that period in the beginning because of prison. You know what I'm saying? Like and as I said in last season, I said, growing up, every man over 30 in my family had a felony, right? So like, my role models were felons, you know what I'm saying? And even the most successful ones, like legit, still have felonies. You know what I mean? So there's that paints the picture, right? That's why, like, no bullshit, for a little bit, the reason why I was wilding, I think, and now that I'm thinking, now that I'm talking about this, when I was younger, getting in trouble, going to jail, stuff like that, is because I thought that, now that I think about it, that's pretty much how I thought it was.
Measuring up.
Yeah.
Earning your stripes.
Yeah, like to this day, I still drive rental cars like I'm trying to blow the engine, bro.
That's just what you do.
But yo, when I was growing up, when my uncles, my older cousins, and they always had rentals, and every time they got in the rental, man, that was to the floor. Like, I'm convinced rental cars put governors in cars because of my family. Like that's how bad it was, bro. Like, that's how. So that again, I'm trying to measure up. My dad was a gangster. His brothers is gangsters. Like, my cousins is gangsters. So when I'm growing up, I'm like, well, I guess I got to be a gangster. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know that it wasn't until, like I said, my basketball coach, God rest his dead, Marco Villa, came in my life that it started changing that narrative. But again, it wasn't until I'm having this conversation right now that I even thought about it like that.
A lot of what you just, or did that last piece what you said with Marco coming in and having that impact on your life, I see a lot of that with Big Baby. So for those of you who don't know, I adopted a kid 2 years ago, and I have him here, and I'm just trying to do what I can to try to help change this young man's life, because there's no doubt in my mind that without my intervention 2 years ago, he'd be 100% in prison or in a casket. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There's no way to shake that, P.
Yep,
at
I
all.
agree with you.
You know what I'm saying? So to see him doing well and doing better, and it's still a struggle because, again, I didn't have him from birth. I'm trying to help relearn.
You're trying to
unlearn 15 years of learning.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it's a task, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is I'm the OG or whatever, trying to throw the gems at the youngins. I took one in to my crib to try to just help them do better. And this isn't the first one. Remember you?
Mercy.
And Madden, what I'm saying? So it's a bunch of them that a couple do. I've tried to like help out. You know what I'm saying? So it's like to the OGs, to the old heads, to the responsible adult men. Like, pull a youngin under your wing, man. Help point them in the right direction, because we could have used that. We needed that.
Or fund the organizations that's doing that, right? Like I'll be honest, like I don't have the time to do what you did, and I honor what you did, and I don't have the patience. That's probably the better word, dude. I don't have the patience to do
I
what
don't
you
either
did.
though. I have you.
Yeah.
Like I was ready to go up top on this cat a couple times, and I had the fellas had to like reel me in, like, yo, it ain't, you know what I'm saying? And I've needed that, so I get it.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is understand the importance. Like, that's it. Like, whatever manner you go about doing it, understand the importance. And if it meant something to you, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it meant something to you, if it helped you get to where you are, understand the importance and give back as best you can, whatever that means.
What do you guys think about that? Because I'm reflecting. There was a period in time where, as an adolescent, the rebellious stage, right? When I started smoking weed, when I started cutting class, where as a freshman, sophomore, I was hanging out with the seniors who was cutting up, just trying to kind of put my feet in the water and kind of test the waters a little bit. When I look back on that stage, I honestly feel like for me, a part of that was necessary for my self-development and my manhood, because of, I think, not only one, what I didn't have within a male or somebody defining manhood to me, but two, to kind of find out what kind of man I was going to become. You know, like, I realized real quick, I wasn't with the fuck shit. You know what I mean? I wasn't with doing dumb shit to get locked up and arrested that just wasn't worth it, and it wasn't. But I feel like I had to experience that stage where I and went to juvenile hall and tried and stealing cars. Like, you know, you don't want to go that far, but I had to experience some of that in order to learn, because I feel like at that age, as a teenager, I was like, you know what, this shit ain't for me. So, you know what I'm saying?
We got like the same story, Pete. That's funny.
Yeah, so I wasn't that bad of a youth in that term, because I think at a young age, so first of all, I was like 9 years old. I'm sitting on the windowsill in the crib looking outside, and I saw a man get hit in the head with a brick, like split his head. I see it in my head, like rainbow gushed out of his head, like it was crazy. And I remember they were drunk, and I remember saying to myself, if that's what drinking does, I never want to be drunk a day in my life. And I have
that would influence it.
That's why I don't drink.
Wow.
That moment right there, I remember it as clear as day. I hear the sound of the brick hitting his head. I hear like the skull crack. Like it's like a very vivid memory of me. So that's why I don't drink and smoke. And so my rebellion phase came at fighting and kind of doing stuff my mom didn't know about, and she still probably doesn't know about it. But I was so afraid to disappoint her that I stayed away from the stealing the cars. I didn't steal them. I rode in a couple, but I didn't steal myself. But I stayed away from all the shit, because you know how, like, when your mom tell you don't go outside. You go outside and you play. You know when she get home, she's gonna yell at you.
Yeah.
But so you're prepared for that ass whooping.
Right.
But your mom tell you don't go outside. You go outside and get arrested. But it's not trouble you're expecting now. Now it's disappointment. Now your mom's not mad at you. She's disappointed. And that feeling is something I try to desperately avoid. So, which is why I kind of strayed away from the crazy and stuff that would get me into big trouble, because I didn't want to disappoint my mom. I knew I was getting in trouble for certain things, coming in late, whatever, having girls in the house when I shouldn't have, but I expected to get yelled at or punished. But the other shit was just like, yo, the disappointment that would bring my mom, was that fear is what prevented me from doing a lot of shit.
You had a ton of self-awareness, right? Like, I'm just listening to you, like, you know what I'm saying, to be able to figure that out at 14, like, basically thinking 3 steps ahead. If I do this and it goes completely wrong and this happens, that's gonna disappoint my mom immensely.
Yeah.
Whereas I was just like, well, she told me I can go out, so long as I come back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But there's a big gap in between the time I leave and the time it's time for me to come back. So there's a lot of shit that can happen.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We went around stealing and doing dumb shit like that, and God, by the grace of God, we didn't get caught. But it was like times where I was asked to go on the mission to steal the car. I'm like, nah, pick me up when y'all steal it. You know what I'm saying? That was the type of party I was on. You know what I'm saying? So a little bit different. But
that's interesting.
And that's the thing right there. So that part right there, I would get clowned for like not wanting to go do the crazy deed. Like, we going across town to go jump this dude. I might go every now and then, but sometimes I'm like, nah, next time we see him, we'll just do it when we cross paths. We're not gonna go over there to do it.
Now, were you the elder in the group, or like equal in terms of age?
I was probably the equal. I was probably equal, but the thing was, I could fight. So
Yeah, but
when I said no, nobody was. They wasn't really trying me.
That's the difference. Like, you weren't looking for acceptance,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Because you were. That's the problem with me. Not that I was ever looking for acceptance. My problem was I was always bigger, so I was hung with the older kids. Mm-hmm. So I was always the younger one out the crew. So I just felt like, okay, this is what the big kids are doing, so this is what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, I mean, I guess I knew it was wrong, but again, I didn't think 2 steps ahead like you did at that age.
But then again, like I said, I got in the gang, but because I don't know what the fuck it was about me, but when I got in, I was one of the higher ranking the officers right off the rip. You know, I didn't have to earn no stripes. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's just the way it was. Then when my mom found out, she's like, I didn't know you was in no damn gang. I just tried my best to keep this shit from her because I didn't want to disappoint my mom. So that's that. So now
I was gonna say
so now we're adults, and again, adult is a very broad, very broad spectrum. But let's go to where you're at right now. Let's go right now.
Right now?
Right now. If I ask you, Prentice Powell, tell me what it means to be a man.
Oh shit, man. To be honest with you, if you ask me that right now, my whole I think vision of being a man has been in a way obliterated, bro. Like, for real, man. Like, just in when you come to a level of awareness, man, and you actually have enough experiences in life, I think you start to reevaluate how you perceive yourself and how you perceive manhood leading up to that point. So now I feel like manhood is an open canvas. With that being said, given the fact that we going right into 2021, society is so fucking different. Why put all these labels on me anyway when everybody working so hard to shatter them? You know what I mean? And then on top of that, the labels I put on in my life, a lot of them I've shed now that have to do with manhood. You know what I'm saying? So my life ain't even the same now. So I look at it as manhood being, for me, it's this, I want to see the evolution. It means evolution to me. It means growth. It means evolution. I got to be able to now, I want to be able to 2.5 years from now, be able to see the difference in Prentice Powell between who I was in 2020. You know what I'm saying? So it feels a lot more like an open canvas now that I've had these experiences. Now I've been told what a man is. Now I've been able to assess for myself what type of man I am and who I want to be. And it's more so about figuring out how to get to that image of man for me than it is the overall arching definition of manhood.
Let me ask the question a different way. Your son comes to you right now and says, Dad, what's manhood?
You got to be able to take care of yourself. That's one. He got to be independent. Or I think that would be probably the first word is to be a man, you have to know how to take care of yourself, because you're going to be expected when you get older to know how to take care of those you take responsibility for and create. So being a man is about, and I'm learning now. You asking me manhood now is self-love and self-care, because the self-love and self-care is allowing me to pour into other people properly. It's allowing us to have this discussion. It's allowing us to rock with each other the way we do so naturally. You know what I'm saying? So it changes over time. But I think you gotta be aware of what you're going through in the moment to really have a good grasp of what type of man you are and what type of man you want to be.
You can go.
I'm asking because this is what I do, but do you make it a point to include, demonstrate, illustrate,
enunciate
the emotional components within your boys specifically?
Absolutely. Just earlier. Absolutely. I have conversations with him to the point where now he's starting to, you know, Bill, I told you, I'm the check-in dude. I'm like, you know, I like to check-ins. So I have these conversations with him now, like, look, man, you know, when we have conflict, not in the sense of like beefing with each other, but if I've told him to do something 5 or 6 times and he just continues to do the same thing, I'm showing like, you know, I'll come to him with, look, man, I want to make sure that you understand what it is I'm trying to tell you. You know what I mean? And if you don't agree with what I'm saying, respectfully, you know, you're gonna have to learn the balance. I want you to let me know. You know what I mean? This is a team effort. We got to figure out how to work with each other. So I really try to make myself emotionally available for them and say like, look, man, right now, man, I'm struggling with this, so I'm trying to work through this. So if I sound a certain way with you, it's not you, you know, it's just some, without giving him too much detail, but letting him see that his dad is human. You know what I mean? That I'm not.
The level of transparency. Yeah.
Right. Just, you know, and just enough where he grasps it and can understand like, oh, okay, my dad is willing to tell me that he's not perfect. My dad is willing to apologize. He is willing to let me know that he may not have made the best decision here. Just so he knows is you gonna fuck up. You know what I mean? So that's the independence thing is the biggest.
So what's interesting, man, I'm glad we're having this conversation. Had you asked me first instead of Prentice, I would have said protect and provide, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's me, in my opinion, oversimplifying it.
Mhm.
Like, if I guess if I flip the question completely from you to me, if my son asked me what that means, and he's not old enough to speak yet, but even, you know, just hypothetically, that's what I would say. Because to me, now, mind you, I would say that, and I believe that. However, I do also believe that you have to love yourself.
Yeah, I think
right?
I think you gave a great answer to
Like,
the
I
question.
think that's key, because that would be one detail I would leave out. Because of course I love myself, right? And I want my son to love himself. But I wouldn't put that, and again, now I will, but prior to this conversation, I wouldn't have put that up there with protect and provide. Now it will be love yourself, protect and provide.
I think that's very important, and I'm listening to you both, and I think that's ideal because, and this is another conversation, another topic I think we should have though, and it's confidence.
You.
And I want to get to that. I want to get to that because it's something. As crazy as it sounds, like I'm super confident in what I do, but it's something I still struggle with in times, and I struggle just in a bunch of different phases.
Me
but
too.
When I tell you I'm digging into my kids with that confidence and empathy so much, like that, I'm almost, I don't want to say I'm making them arrogant, but like my kids really believe in themselves and they know like anything is possible. And like I hear my daughter talking to my middle son and the middle boy talking to the baby, and it's like they encourage each other to like, yes, you can. Like my son probably thinks he can fly.
Word. Hey,
like,
as long as he don't jump off nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm saying he might like
in theory, yeah, you can fly, but not in reality, bro.
But that's what kind of helps me develop my opinion of a man is based on the reflection of my children. Like my son, other day, I asked him, not the other day, but like I asked him what he wanted for Christmas. He only wants one thing. He only asked for one thing. And I'm like, so what if, you know, your mom gets you one and I get you one? And he's like, well, I'll just give the other one to Mia. And it's just like, and with that response, it's like, yo, I'm doing something right.
He gets it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm doing something right. And it's like, it's just super cool for that. But back to the topic at hand, like both your answers are what should encompass what you tell your child in terms of what it is and what it's like to become or be a man.
But you know what's ill, yo? You know what's ill? Like I'm 38 years old, and this is the first manhood conversation I've had in my life.
Really?
Yeah, like in terms of what it means to be a man. Like this is the first in-depth conversation I've had. So I say that to say, how many of us are having that conversation? Like explicitly, you're doing an amazing job with your kids, right? And maybe they're too young to start having that manhood conversation. But have you explicitly said, this is what it takes to be a man?
Man, I think a lot of us have, if in hindsight, I don't know if I've had a conversation this in depth either, but I know I've had to be a part of conversations where the topics just probably weren't what really matters when it comes to manhood, but they were manhood conversations.
Yeah.
We talk about levels, and we have that stage when, you know, some of our priorities aren't necessarily what they need to be, but in that time in our life, you know, the circles we running in are the people we chopping it with. That's what we talking about, and that defines our manhood. But
a lot of those conversations, P, I know what you're talking about. A lot of those conversations are surface level, right?
Yeah,
very, very, very surface level.
Or vent, right? Or vent. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So I just think, I think it's one of the reasons why we started this podcast was to invite these levels of conversation, right? Because we all got blind spots, bro. Like we're all phenomenal parents, but we have blind spots.
For sure.
Right? So it's like the more you have these levels of conversation, it's like it can open you up to your blind spots. Like I said, man, you gave a great answer. And I think I gave a great answer. But guess what? We combine them two. It's a phenomenal answer.
Right. Now you got an even better answer.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like I would have been headstrong when my son asked me what that means or what that takes on protect and provide, because that's my anchor. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my anchor. That's one. And now that I think about it, if we're getting this deep, my dad told me that. Right? Like my dad told me that. So now that sticks with me. So that now that I think about it, that he did have that conversation with me. Right? Protect and provide. Those are your only two jobs. So now when I'm about to answer that question, I'm like, got it. Protect and provide.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and if I'm being 100% transparent, one thing my dad probably didn't do enough is love himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I definitely think he loves himself, but I don't think he loved himself enough to get vulnerable to love others as hard as he's capable of.
And how do we get to that point where we are vulnerable enough without us being broken down? Because that's my experience.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so here we go. When you say without us being broken down, what do you mean by that? Because what I hear is, how do we get to this level without us looking soft in front of whomever? That's what I hear in my head.
No, I don't mean looking soft. What I mean is, like we were saying, those superficial conversations we have as young men, right? That are our discussions on manhood, but they're just completely superficial. And in a lot of conversations like that, if in a lot of circles, if you were to bring in the depth that we're talking about now, you may get that, oh, look at this nigga talking. What nigga, I ain't trying to do all that. We ain't trying to go all that. You know what I mean? Just that resistance, right? How do we have the conversations before we get to that space where we're thinking that this type of dialogue is unhealthy? Or what I meant by saying, you know, being broken down is that we've expended ourselves completely on trying to be somebody else. We realize that we're totally, like, we cannot continue this charade of being whoever the fuck we're trying to be. We've been stripped of all of our image, and now we got to face ourselves in the mirror. You get what I'm saying?
So
that's what
So two things. One, I think the way we prevent that is to have the conversation early and often. That's one, right? Two is you have to have that conversation with yourself first before somebody breaks you down and like, you ain't shit, you this, you that, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you can accept that for yourself first, then you can start making the changes. And then and the cool thing about that is it don't got to be on Front Street, right? Like you can make those changes in private, right? As you're working towards whatever your definition is. Whereas you're under the gun because you just got berated by your woman in front of everybody.
And so in the Front Street thing stands out. But like you said, I want 2 points. I want to go, one, that having that confidence to be like, okay, you know what I mean? This isn't.
I don't think it's confidence, Chief. Because guess what? If you, just hypothetically, if you never learn how to be a man, how you going to be confident about being one?
Right.
I'm saying in terms of when you're confronted with the you ain't shit conversation, having that confidence to sit back and go, wow, I need to take in what he told me. I mean,
it's humility.
Humility.
Right? It's humility. Like, you have to have the humility to understand that you are not where you want to be, and there's steps that can be taken to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Oftentimes we can't figure that out for ourselves, though.
But this is it's all coming full circle.
I hear you.
I said, and that's the cool part, like Bill just said. Then we got to discuss or fucking figure out the application. You know what I mean? So it's hard enough to even mentally get there, but like, however you.
But that's the thing, Prentice. That's what I'm saying. It's all coming full circle, right? Like, we don't have these conversations enough. We made this podcast to make it cool to talk about these things, to make it cool to go to therapy, to make it cool to have these, because we're not the only 3 black men that's dealing with this shit. I promise you that.
For sure.
Right? So it's like,
absolutely,
we doing this for y'all because again, like I said, I'm 38. It's my first in-depth manhood conversation I've ever had.
When you say y'all, we doing it for us, and when I say us, I mean
no,
y'all.
yeah. Right, exactly.
You know,
Yes,
us is y'all. Like,
yeah, 100%.
We are y'all. You know what I'm saying?
100%. And that's the only thing I can say. And it's not a silver bullet. It's not like you go have this conversation tomorrow, you're gonna be fixed. Nah, you gotta have a conversation, a real conversation, humility about where you are. Period. Because that's no matter how many conversations you have, until you address where you are, you're not gonna be able to get to where you want to go.
And some of us will mask it depending upon what circles we're in. Like we have these, like you said, you might have had these conversations depending on what group you're in, and because the three of us, from what I know, are chameleons, if you will. Like we can get down in any room, no matter where it is. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter where you put us. We put us in the room, we'll succeed in the room. In the middle of the projects, in the middle of the boardroom. You know what I'm saying? Like it don't make a difference. But I think having the confidence to step away from that toxic masculinity moment and go, that's not for me. You know what I'm saying? That's not what being a man represents to me. So
right.
I'm gonna step back from that.
Or does it?
Or call the people out in that particular moment. I think
that's tough.
I think that takes confidence too.
That definitely does. I think another thing is like you have to be, if you feel your current manhood state, if that makes sense, isn't what is ideal for you, you have to take the necessary actions as opposed to just succumbing to your circumstances. Like, look, my dad wasn't there. His dad wasn't there. I'm not there for my kids. That's it. That's what it is. I'm at where I'm at. Like, if that's how you feel, bro, then you exactly where you need to be. Right. But you gotta, if you want to make a change, you have to open yourself up to those options.
So what are the ways that you, like, just take a minute to think about it, because I've been thinking about it during this conversation. Once you have that realistic conversation with yourself and you've been honest enough with yourself to know that you got some changes you need to make, be aware, whatever, how does applying it look to you, or how has it looked to you, your development, once you've realized a couple of those things you need to work on? Because I can think for me, what I had to do was I had to be reality with myself in the mirror, but a part of me had to give myself some, a little bit of a fantasy bubble in reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can vividly think of one stage this year in my life where I was, working on something and really feeling challenged with it. I had to lean on a paycheck that I got, and a good paycheck that I got from writing. And what I had to do was I had to cash that paycheck and get it in all 20s and put it in my money bag in my closet and look at it every single day, because I had to feel like, I was doing something. I had a couple bills I needed to pay, but I needed that
validation.
That validation and, in a way, false sense of security to get me to the next check. And it worked. You know what I'm saying? I think for sometimes we got to find different avenues. If we're working on something that's hard in one way, we got to have something that's giving us an upper, that doesn't require anybody else. So we got to kind of paint little pictures for ourselves to get to that next stage. Does that make sense? That's how I kind of...
No, I get exactly what you're saying, man. And two things come to mind when you said that. First one was we have to be able to borrow confidence, right? Wow. That's what you did, right? You borrowed confidence from that money. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing. The other thing I thought about, one of my mentors, when I got into the financial world, one thing he said to me that stuck out. He said, I'm going to believe in you until you're confident enough to believe in yourself, right? So he's like, if you don't believe in yourself yet, that's fine. Just believe in me, right? You know I can do this. You've seen me do this. So you believe in me that I can get you to where you need to get to. And you put all your faith in me. And then once you get there, you'll be able to sustain yourself. So those are like, one's a self-sustained option, right? You can borrow confidence from anybody or anything, like in your case. Or if you have a circle, you can find that confidence within somebody else that maybe has done what you're looking to do.
I'll give you a prime example of the borrowed confidence. And I don't know if you even remember this, but when we used to hit the clubs and be going out and everything. I'm just type of guy like Belle used to be the guy like she walked by, you know what I mean, he had no problem with it. I would just kind of play the room a little bit and go see. So this is how we kind of fed off each other. Like I'd be like, Belle, that's the one I want right over there. He's like, you better go get her. And I'd be hesitant. You know, talking to a girl is always the hardest part for a guy to break the ice, right? So this what we do. Like, you got 60 seconds, go get her. If you don't get her, I'm gonna go get her.
Uh-oh.
And you can't lose out to the homie, so you gotta build up the confidence to go do it in that moment. You know what I'm saying? So that was something that worked a lot in our, you know, for us, because it was like, listen, you don't get her, I'm gonna go get her, and then we would go do it. Secondly, you talked about what it looks like, and I think in our particular cases, and even Belle, not being a writer, still wrote shit down.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, you're writing all, things down.
I wrote a poem in high school.
No, man, let them know.
All right, listen, man, don't be coming on here trying to play me in front of all your poet fans and all that.
Verses.
Hey, like my man Hove said, for the right price, I can even make your shit tighter. All right?
Hello. Talk about it.
Talk to me. No, I was saying, so I remember going like, so I was reading something one day, and it was about relationship, but it said, write down all the things you want in a partner, right? And then it said, until you represent all those things, you said erase one thing off the list each time until you represent everything you put on our list, and then create another one. So it's kind of like we have to write down what we aspire to be, or what, you know, what manhood is it looks like to us, and until we meet those goals, then you create another list and just continue to evolve. Like you said, I think for me personally, I do, and I know y'all do too, but I'm very, very adamant about, like, as cliche as it sounds, fella, like growing every single day, like taking something and like leveling up every day, yo, every day.
And writing, and you writing stuff down and all that stuff too? I
am. In my book, and P, shout out to you for this. So I don't, you probably know, but when I was going through the tense moment where you observed and whatnot, I've been wanting to talk about it, and I'm like, I was so used to creating stuff for the stage, and P was like, yo, everything ain't for the stage, and Belle, the shit was like a light bulb. It was like, oh, you mean I could just write this stuff down and get it out?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was so conditioned to write for the stage that I was afraid to tell this story because I didn't want to violate or vilify any of the people that were a part of the story. But to be able to just get it out in my journal did work wonders for me. You know what I'm saying?
When you write that or leather though?
That's probably after I have a conversation with my mom. I'm thinking about recording my mom and I conversation.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but my mom is from the project, so it ain't gonna be what y'all thinking.
You gonna have your stepdad on there too?
Mom's is real. Wait, what'd you say?
I hate this dude, yo.
What'd you say?
P had a stepfather for the last 17 years that he refuses to acknowledge.
He's my mother's husband. It's levels to it, P.
Chief's stepdad is Canadian.
It's levels to it, B.
Is he for real?
He's a good dude. He's my mother's husband.
He helped raise him. He acted like this.
He helped raise me. My mom
he put him on the poutine and all that.
Get out of here, man.
And now he's your mama's husband. Okay, you playing him, bud.
Nah, my mom married when I was 23. Get out of here.
Oh, okay.
Oh shit. Nah, so when you gonna have a conversation with Peaches though?
Probably before the new year.
It's gotta hit this season. Oh, before the new year.
It has to happen because we got to go for that issue.
A week.
Have a reflection on it. Nevertheless, yo, I feel like this conversation could go on for days. I think
this is good. I'm not gonna lie. I have some reservation about this. We kind of, just so y'all know for the listeners, we definitely wing this. We are recording this 4 days after our scheduled record date. So
right.
We had a lot of stuff happening. So what happens when you add somebody to the podcast who's 3 hours behind? You know, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of coordinating
Prentice,
happen.
This is your fault.
Yeah. All y'all listening, man, this shit is completely my fault. I'm gonna get better on it.
That's, look at that ownership, taking ownership. Nah, it's great to have Prentice on because it definitely adds a different dynamic, and and we wanted to make sure that we were here as a collective. And we made it happen. We gotta make it happen. I'm gonna be up all night editing. You know what I'm saying?
He's not gonna do nothing when it comes to editing.
But I'm doing this for y'all. Me and Prentice, man, we're gonna take this editing thing. We're gonna bang out.
We're gonna knock it out, man. Feel free to message. If you like the editing, let me and Bell know. You know that we doing our thing, man.
Chief just pretty much riding Prentice in our coattail. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You wouldn't see or hear not nan episode if it wasn't for me.
You know what I mean?
Hey, but they'll never know how true that statement is.
Not nan episode.
My ass would be fucking MIA in the wind somewhere.
Oh man. Anywho, yo.
Yeah, man, I think it's good that we have this conversation about confidence moving forward. I think we definitely got to dive more into that one in another topic, man, because the different ways that it rears its head and how you got to sometimes you got to have blind faith, bud, and grab onto some of that even when you're not even fully convinced.
That is more faith than confidence, man, for those who don't have it.
More faith than confidence.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Like, for those who don't have it, man, there's more faith than confidence, because it's like how you tell somebody to get confidence who's never had confidence. Right. It starts with faith. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it's easy for us. We've all performed at high levels in our respective professions or sports or whatever, right? We performed at high levels. So it's easy to garner confidence from that. But not everybody is us, right? In fact, we're probably less common, right? Just statistically.
And it don't always transfer to other aspects of your life, too.
That's true, too. That's true, too. That's very true. Yeah.
Nevertheless, final thoughts, yo. I thought this conversation went very, very well. I think people steal some gems from it. We're gonna cut it up nice so it all
we
flows.
Damn sure gonna cut it up.
Yeah.
And we go from there. So
we gonna cut
it.
Bell, you first. What you got? Final thought.
Have the conversation. That's my biggest reflection point from this episode is, like I said, it's not one of those things that was ever top of mind, but once you have it, you realize how important it is. And once you go into depth, and now obviously me having a son, and I've never had this conversation with my daughter, like not an explicit conversation, right? The ironic thing is we all, well, exception to you, all have taught what we've been taught by our dads. You know what I'm saying? Well, I guess except for both of you. You use what your mom taught you, Prentice. But and that's all I did is I just tried to be the example for my daughter, and hope I use that word, hope that was enough, right? And so far so good. But I never sat down with her and said, listen, this is what you need to look for in a man. Fortunately for me, for her and me, she got older at a time in my life when I started doing better, right, as a man. So she got to reap the benefit of a lot of those good qualities. So have the conversation, in short.
P, final thought?
It's okay to redefine yourself as a man anytime you please. You know what I mean? Regardless of other labels that are placed on you by people you care about, people you don't, you always just always leave room for redefinition in your life. You know what I mean? For your character, for how you move, how you speak, just anywhere. Just leave room for it and just, try to put in some effort on a daily basis to redefine yourself in some type of way for the good.
Works for me. For me, I'm going to go with identifying what it is for you that makes a man, and then chase those things. And then once you've reached those, just like I said, keep continuing to evolve, like P said, but putting it down so you can see it gives you an objective. Now you have a short-term goal. I want to be able to say I'm this and that, but make sure to include the emotional components behind it, because I think outside of that emotional part, like we're taught to protect and provide and build and fix and all that good bravado and machismo, but learn how to give a solid hug. You know what I'm saying? Learn how to listen. Like giving a good hug is like a real thing. You know what I'm saying? Like squeeze a little bit tighter on purpose. Little things like that make a big difference in terms of the inclusivity of what it is to be a man. Like you have to be able to be well-rounded, and I think the emotional component is something that we don't do enough work at.
100%. 100%.
So be able to fucking, fix a cabinet and give a hug. Word up.
So hug the person that's fixing your cabinet.
I hate this dude. Nevertheless, that's it. That's it for us, yo. This has been another episode of All Black Men Need Therapy. Make sure to holler at us on all social media outlets at All Black Men Need Therapy, allblackmenneedtherapy@gmail.com. Hit us up with questions, comments, complaints, or concerns. Do us all a favor and hug a black man today.
Hug a black man today.
And tomorrow.
And tomorrow.
We out.
Peace.
Remix that shit every time.
You gotta say, all right, y'all. I say we out. He say peace. You be like, all right, y'all. That's what you said last time.
Or maybe his thing could be just doing something different every time.
Shut the fuck up.
You know, don't try to put that man in the box.
Box.
That man's a creative. All right.
He is very much so creative.
Try it one more time.
No.
Nah.
Okay. I was gonna say different other shit. You know what I mean?
I knew that was coming. That's why I said no.
Yeah, you wasn't gonna get what you was looking for, but I forgot.